And now you can see the heat map. And on this map, you can see how quickly the news of the assault on the chemicals factory spread across the globe. People use the words France attack and Islamists to get the story. And the news went viral in North America, Western Europe, particularly in Britain. Well, next, we can now talk to geopolitical analyst Patrick Henningsen. Patrick, thank you so much for joining us here on RT International. Well, the surge in anti-Muslim attacks in France after Charlie Hebdo is evident. Has it been felt in Britain?
I think the tension in Britain is nothing near what you might have in France. But having said that, we are coming up to the 10-year anniversary of the attacks of 7/7, which took place 7th July 2005. That'll be in a couple of weeks, and of course that's a big date on the historical calendar in terms of terrorism in Britain. So yes, what's happening in France right now, or what's happened since January, has really put Europe or France on high alert, higher than ever before, in fact, especially this week. And well, one dares even speculate if a similar event happened in Britain, what would happen in terms of lockdown in this country, security-wise.
Now, the main targets for terrorists in Tunisia are tourists. Why is that? Is it a message to the international community, you think? And what sort of message the international community should be getting and dealing with the consequence of this, in your opinion?
Well, this is interesting because this is more or less a repeat of what happened at the end of March with the Bordeaux Museum attack. I think 22 people were killed, including one British mother, we're told. So we have similar sort of victims numbers here at this beach attack with five-star hotels in Tunisia. Definitely tourism is definitely being attacked here. Tunisia is being attacked, really. So I don't know why Tunisia has become a target. Maybe because it's more moderate, perhaps. This is from an Islamic terrorist perspective, but there could be a lot of deeper state agendas here. And here's the other problem we have is that there's no way to validate or give credibility to any of these so-called ISIS attacks. In the case of the Kuwait mosque bombing, ISIS claims responsibility on a Twitter account. And if you think of in terms of CSI and crime scene investigation, that's just not good enough. So we don't really know who did this bombing in Kuwait. Ditto, you could say, with some of these other attacks, including Tunisia and possibly France. They're not ISIS attacks as such, but the media has completely run with that narrative because it's an easy narrative. It requires no investigation. It requires no inquiry. You usually say ISIS did it, and then away you go with the sort of normal news cycles that we've gotten used to over the last 12 months. So I think that should really be looked at a lot closer.
Well, what can we say now about the growing Islamophobia and the anti-Muslim sentiment in Europe? Because, you know, on the one hand, what has been highlighted earlier by the analysts that I've spoken to today, that there's a huge divide there between different communities. Why is it that this divide is not being minimized? Or perhaps, I mean, something being done, or maybe not enough is being done. What is your perception of what needs to be done? You know, is it possible to establish the dialogue between different communities? Because, you know, there have been so many wake-up calls.
Sure. Well, just quickly, we should preface that in the Middle East itself, in that region, there's a concerted effort to create some sort of polarity between Sunni and Shiite Muslims, and that has been actively the case since 2003, since the U.S. Invaded and occupied Iraq. Now in Europe, it's primed for division like never before. So we have this issue with immigration. This is also adding flames to this fire, but Christians versus Muslims, people who are indigenous to Europe versus Muslim immigrants, and France is at the front line of this particular trend. So, and it has been for a very, very long time. This is down to its ex-colonial legacies with regards to Algeria, Tunisia, and to a lesser degree Morocco. So this is something that has divided French society for a long time. There are certain people that capitalize off this division, and there's people who profit off this division, in fact. Some may argue that Charlie Hebdo magazine benefited from this sort of sectarian division. and sort of jingoism or racism or fear porn, whatever you want to call it. So there's a lot of people who are benefiting from this, not least of all the security state. And sort of the wider military-industrial complex is a great beneficiary of this type of division. So certainly, if committees are allowed to come together, I think they will, like there is dialogue in Britain with the Muslim community and the British Christian, so-called Christian community, and Jewish communities, and those dialogues, on the most part, are very successful. So I think when you take away some of these incidents that, to me, are very dubious, many of them, when communities actually come together and talk, people find that there is no differences. There isn't great fear there. A lot of this is spun up in the media, and it's used for geopolitical purposes globally. So I think we really need to take a much, much deeper look at what's behind these events, who's actually involved in these events, and acknowledge the fact that communities living in places like Britain, like France, are perfectly capable of coexisting together and thriving together.
All right, Patrick, thanks so much for talking to us. Very much appreciated. Patrick Henningsen there, geopolitical analyst, talking to us, to our team, giving us his analysis and insight of what's happening.